Testing.
Good evening. Today is Monday, December 15th, 2025. We are at the Green Ladle and we'll call the meeting to order with the Pledge of Allegiance. We will begin committee member introductions with Councillor Harriman.
Scott Harriman, City Council Representative to the School Committee.
Donna Gallant, Ward 7.
Megan Hurd, Ward 6.
Iman Asman, Ward 5.
Craig Charpentier, Ward 4.
Elizabeth Eames, Ward 3.
Janet Bowden, Ward 2.
Phoenix McLaughlin, Ward 1.
Megan Parks at large.
Jake Langley, Superintendent.
Karen Puckett, Assistant Superintendent.
Thank you. Agenda item number 3 is the consent agenda. Are there any items on the consent agenda that members would like set aside? Seeing none, that is adopted. Agenda item number 4 is public input. Members of the public may address the school committee for up to 3 minutes on non-agenda items now and on agenda items later. Speakers must adhere to the public comment policy, BEDH, which is available at the back of the room and on the LPS website. These meetings exist to conduct school committee business. The purpose of public comment is to share thoughts on school and educational matters. Committee members and school staff will not reply during this time. Comments must be directed to the chair and be civil. By law, comments may not pertain to specific staff or students. Comments about individuals must be directed privately to the appropriate LPS staff. Student privacy must be maintained. The public comment period is 30 minutes unless extended due to unusual circumstances. Priority goes to Lewiston residents and parents, students, or employees of LPS. Before starting, please state your name, town or city of residence, and affiliation to LPS. And if all members of the audience could be respectful during public comment and not speak over whoever's at the mic. Member Hurd.
Thank you. Can we just check and make sure we're live streaming? Okay. Okay. I know, I'm just asking. Okay, gotcha.
Are there any members of the public that would like to speak on non-agenda items?
Good evening, Marcel Leclerc, 210 Blake Street, Ward 5. I intended on attending the last meeting. Unfortunately, I was unable to do so due to my Crohn's disease. But at the meeting before that, my first right amendment was it was not only it was downright it was removed. I was not able to speak, and this evening, I would like an apology from Member McLaughlin and Member Parks that because my first right amendment was infringed upon and it was denied. So, yeah, seeing that that's not going to happen, I just wanted to make note that we still have not received the address for Member Osman. And he cited that reasoning for safety concerns. And I find that quite strange considering that he attended a rally just a couple days ago with over 400 people there. So considering his safety is at risk, I think that would probably not be wise for him to. So I am just hoping that we're able to get to the bottom of his address and hopefully you reconsider an investigation on him. Thank you.
Are there any other members? Thank you.
My name is Melissa Dunn, resident community organizer, and I live on Blake Street. A stalker is not a determinant to whether their victim's life safety is at risk or not.
Are there any other? Thank you.
Matthew Agron, Ward 4. Dear current community members, as well as the new ones to come, I hope you all can hear this. I ask of you to lay out a solid plan for the school system for the next, at minimum, 2 years to up to possibly a 5-year plan. When you start looking at the wonderful budget period that's coming up in, what, a month? Because it's that time of year again. One thing that will help you when you present your budget to the public is if the voters can see that there is a plan, and it's a plan with action for a number of years ahead, not just that you're winging it year by year, which some people think you are. For example, I know there's a plan in Lewiston to bring back as many of our special ed kids as possible into the system. While yes, there's a cost there, I also believe that there will hopefully be a savings, not just in the transportation time and cost. I also hope that a plan will be laid out by the Lewiston school system for them assuming CDS operations in-house. Because while the state says they will continue to pay those bills, let's be honest, how many of you out there actually believe them? I don't. I figure in 2 to 5 years down the road, the state of Maine will kick the can to all the local operations and say, you guys can pay for it. If you guys lay out that plan of operations now and the cost, hopefully there'll be less yelling and screaming when the citizens of Lewiston have to assume that burden. Finally, as we go through items on the agenda, I ask you to please remember there may be members of the public out here who wish to speak on these items. So just don't go, I'll have your say, and vote. Instead, please remember to ask if the public wishes to say anything. To those members whose terms are up, while I may not have agreed with all of your decisions, I believe you made your decisions based on your views of what's best for our community. Thank you for serving the school committee.
Are there any other members of the public that would like to speak on a non-agenda item?
Andrew Jones, Ward 2. Just wanted to speak to you all because this will be the last school committee meeting with this whole group here. There's some outgoing members, some new ones coming in. I just wanted to touch upon a few of that. Not necessarily pertaining to that, but I just wanted to congratulate Janet and Scott for winning your respective caucuses. Scott doubly so, because I can only imagine the tantrum your opponent threw when he found out he lost. So good luck on your future races. Ivan Osmond is moving up to city council, much to the chagrin of a lot of folks. Hopefully the council does its due diligence and there's a swift ejection followed by a jail cell in the near future. Megan, you want to control that? No, I didn't think so. But segues right into you because, you know, not running again was probably the best decision that you've made. We all heard about your supposed threats and found out about from the LPD that you were not being truthful about that. So, hey, they said it. You know, and it just goes to speak to your character about allowing the conflict of interest votes and all that jazz. You know, it makes me think of back when you were accused of tax fraud right here in this room. Your defense to that was all the good things that you do in this community. And yeah, you do some good things, but they don't change the fact that what you're doing in here is wrong. If I could let my nerd flag fly a little bit, a quote from Star Trek that I think fits here specifically for you. Villains who twirl their mustaches are easy to spot. Those that clothe themselves in good deeds are well camouflaged. Fits you to a T. Thank you.
Are there any other members of the public that would like to speak on non-agenda items?
Yeah. You're good. You can speak now.
My name is Sean. I'm a sixth grader at Montel Elementary School. I live in Lewiston, and I would like to bring to your attention some of the things that happened around recess. First, I would like to say, some, not all of the staff at Montello will limit recess as a punishment. And I know some teachers may believe accountability matters, and I believe that too, but taking away the recess is not the way to provide accountability. Taking away recess is not providing accountability, but doing the opposite, making kids act up more, especially with the kids with ADHD. Second, I propose that we add 5 to 10 minutes.
You can take your finger off the button. It's good.
Oh.
Yep, keep going.
Second, I propose we have 5 to 10 minutes of recess to give students a long and sufficient break where they have more social interactions. Stanford did a study where it showed numerous benefits to recess. Many people, including me, have short attention spans. A way that we can help is not by taking away recess, but adding more. By doing this, kids may benefit from longer attention spans, better social skills, and more social interactions, plus more creativity, better physical health, and boost mental health, and much, much more. Third, a former state senator proposed a bill, and I quote, all students from kindergarten to 5th grade shall participate in a minimum of 30 minutes of daily physical activity at school, which may include recess, classroom activities, or physical education. A physical education activity period may not be denied to a student as a punishment or discipline. Nothing in this section prohibits a teacher from restricting a student's participation in physical activity. If her participation in physical activity presents danger to the student or others, or if the restriction is consistent with the student's individual education plan, a teacher may provide an alternative physical activity for students behaving inappropriate during the physical activity period. This bill did not pass, but I present making this a district policy. Instead of teachers yelling at their classes about their failing themselves, let's look at a bigger picture and maybe think it's not the kids who are failing themselves. It's not having a sufficient break from all the stress from school. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Sean. You did a really good job on that. Are there any other members of the public that would like to speak?
Hello, my name is Marissa Deku. I am a resident, a parent. I work at the high school, but I am here today representing the LEA. So I'm here in regards to last Wednesday's professional development time on December 10th. If you recall, it was a bad weather day. We have received multiple complaints about the concern of our staff's safety during this time. The courthouses were closed. All after-school programming was canceled in Auburn, many surrounding towns. Our very own Lewiston Academy classes were canceled, but staff was asked to remain for the professional development. We could hear the ice in different weather as we were being provided professional development. There are different end times between 4 and 5:15, depending on which school you're at. And if you were listening to any of our meteorologists at that time, they were saying, please stay off the roads. There were very icy conditions, and that's when we were being released. In accordance to school board policy EBCE, the superintendent is authorized to cancel school, delay school openings, dismiss school early in the event of severe weather, hazardous travel conditions that endanger the health and welfare of both students and staff. And, we're just asking for you to consider, why was Lewiston Academy classes canceled for the consideration of the students and staff, but the remainder of the staff was asked to stay. We're just asking for thoughtful consideration in future situations where severe weather occurs, especially on Wednesday afternoons or evenings when we are asked to stay late. Staff should not be placed in the position of weighing their own safety against the requirements to remain for professional development. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you. Are there any other members of the public that would like to speak on non-agenda items? Seeing none, we will move on to agenda item number 5 to receive and potentially vote on the field trip request for LRTC to attend the award ceremony for firefighter instructor. I'm not going to try. Firefighter instructor at Fenway Park in Boston, and Dr. Callahan and Dan Thompson will present.
Good evening. I'm Rob Callahan. I'm the director of the Lewiston Regional Technical Center, and I'm joined by my good colleague, Dan Thompson, who is LRTC's firefighting instructor. And we're here for two reasons tonight. One, he knows about. One, I'm going to spring on him in just a quick second. And the reason that I told him we're here is that we're here to ask for permission to take a group of students to Fenway Park to the Wasabi Bowl, which is happening on December 27th. And we'll tell you a little bit about that in a second. But the reason I didn't mention to Dan, and it was something that I thought you should know, is that Dan is an extraordinary teacher. And I think it really is indicative of the work of so many teachers around Lewiston that impact lives of students like we just heard from every day, that get up, that take a moderate risk and do something out of their zone of comfort. And Dan's students certainly do that every day. Rather than me telling you about that, I'd like to tell you about something that in a way that he was recognized for. And then you're going to see a short video in a second that his students will tell you that. So the reason we're asking to go to Fenway to the Wasabi Bowl is really because, and this is again what he won't tell you, is because he is being recognized as a Boston Red Sox, and I'm going to get this wrong, Boston Red Sox Wasabi Bowl Educator Honor Roll, to the Educator Honor Roll. And there were 3 teachers from around New England that were recognized this year that were finalists. And that requires that you be nominated by your peers, which he was. It requires a classroom visit so they see what you're up to on a day-to-day basis. They come and talk to your students, they come and talk to your peers, and they understand the role that you play in this community. And again, what you'll see in a quick second is that Dan has, in a very short time, distinguished himself, that he has made our program one of distinction, that he has made a mark on his students that will last them many years. And it's no doubt that his students will join the public servants in this community and serving the folks that live here in a very special and unique way. So he is being recognized, and we would like to bring some students to see that happen. Culturally, it's a great thing for them to be in Fenway Park, but also to join us in congratulating him and recognizing his outstanding work. So again, Jake, if you wouldn't mind, we'll play this and then. It's the only way I could get him here. I had to trick him.
The whole point of this drill is they're supposed to be able to get their gear on in 1 minute. If they have The whole point of this drill is they're supposed to be able to get their gear on in 1 minute. If they have their air patch, they should have their gear on air, ready to walk into a burning building 2 minutes.
My name is Daniel Thompson. I am a high school teacher in Lewiston, Maine for Lewiston Regional Technical Center. I teach firefighting to students.
Good morning, gentlemen.
I grew up in southern Maine in Portland, and Lewiston, since I have started working there, it's more home than anything else. The students are great. They've all embraced me with open arms. I wasn't sure how to be myself, but the students really put me at ease.
Chief Thompson, he is a big part of everyone's life here. Chief is a great guy, paving the way for us to be great first responders.
It is a roller coaster ride. I love it, for sure. There is a reality to high school drama.
I would bring 5 cornical board sets, a grill, and a Blackstone.
That's fascinating. One of the big things that I push is integrity. As a firefighter, you're going into people's homes, and we have to have that trust. When you're actually doing the job, your head has to be on a swivel. You have to be aware of the fact that we are dealing with life or death situations. If they have a hard time facing their own fears, I've got to work them through those fears. I've had students that were afraid of heights, got to get on a ladder. Some are afraid of being seen, and you have to build them up a little bit so that they can work and fail.
Water's coming!
You put them in a smoke-filled room that is the hottest environment they've ever been in, and there's a warm orange glow in the corner. They all need a gentle push to go towards that. You just have to be able to trust in your skills, trust in your knowledge, trust in your coworkers, and do the job. That is kind of the concept of my class. Is it's learning by doing, and there's nothing else more rewarding than the job.
He has brought me out of my shell completely. He's taught me things that I never thought I would even think about knowing.
The primary thing that I kind of push in my students, again, is, it's a lifelong education. And just because I teach you something one way and you nail it, doesn't mean there's not a different way to do it that isn't better for you. So listen to other people, always have an open mind. And just because somebody does something differently than you doesn't mean it's wrong.
Remember, lift with your legs, not your back. Remember, that hood should always be tucked in, completely covered.
Company, we go together.
Fair. Okay, I will give you that. I'll give you that.
It's the connections that I have with the students, to me, that is, the biggest.
I've never really had a father figure, so he's been that for me, but since he's a little old, he can't be a father figure, so he's been my grandfather figure.
Students have opened up to me and told me things that I have been surprised about, both good and bad. A student that really blossomed in a situation where they were a wallflower hiding behind a black shroud, just trying to not be seen, and to push them to the forefront and then see them try the task, succeed in the task, and then just watch them blossom and get better. So that's a great feeling. I just try to be a mentor that shows them a good path and just be a voice of positivity. I hope I taught you something, and I hope I made a positive impact in your life.
He's an amazing teacher, and I'm so lucky to have him as one of my teachers this year.
He is really good at teaching us, taking us out of our shells. He has put his perspective on life on us. He's like a father figure or a grandfather figure.
He's a chill guy, My favorite memory is when he bought the microwave, it made me really happy.
I usually do.
I'm not sure that I deserve to be sitting in this seat. That's a hard thing to say because you don't want to say that what you're doing is non-deserving, but I work with so many rock stars that have been doing it for so long. It means more than I can put in words.
So I will turn the microphone over to Chief Thompson, who can tell you a little about the field trip, but I'm sure he'd be happy to talk to you about firefighting and anything else that you may, his grandfatherliness, that comes from Chief.
Well, thank you very much. It was about 1,200 of us that were all put forward, and as Rob had said, 3 of us kind of crossed the finish line together, hand in hand. Ultimately, it is the recognition, both for the schools and the programs, but from a other standpoint, not to put a fine point on money, but they are putting a $500 or $5,500 award that goes directly back into the program, and that is it's an odd number, 55. Apparently, it's a $5,000, and then the 500 covers taxes. So they didn't want us to be responsible for that. But it's quite the honor. I'm not exactly sure what to say now. So if anybody has any questions, I would more than happy.
Tell a little bit about the field trip too.
Oh, sorry. Yes, sure. So the field trip, lots of students have asked about, or several students have asked about it and really want to go. It's a several-hour event. There is the Wasabi Bowl itself is a college level football game that is played in Fenway. This year it is Army and UConn, thank you very much, that are playing. So it'll be exciting in that respect. There's also, I guess, a short concert that's put on by, do you remember who the artist is?
I do.
Fair enough. He won a bunch at the CMA, so apparently he's important. But that's about as much as I can tell you. It's a one-day event, and I think it's just going to be really good to get the kids down there and get them the opportunity to
see how the bigger world works a little bit. I'm going to pull them as far as I can into and see how the world of Fenway works and the whole business atmosphere thereof. And surprisingly, just how much of a family they are, so that they can understand that business doesn't necessarily just have to be business.
So the quick logistics are that we will be meeting here in the morning, that we'll be shuttling students down to Portland by van, and that we'll be taking the train down together. They'll be chaperoned. We will cover the cost of transportation, of the ticket to the bowl, and then we'll provide them a meal while they're there. And that's at no cost to students that have asked to go. And then we'll obviously make sure they get back.
Oh, yeah, that's important too.
Questions or comments from the committee? Would somebody like to make a motion? Member Heard?
I'll make a motion to approve the field trip request for LRTC to the Wasabi Bowl.
I'll second that, and also congratulations.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? All in favor? It is unanimous. Have a great time and congratulations.
Thank you all very much. Appreciate your time.
Agenda item number 6 is discussion on school committee retreat items and the timeline.
Sorry, I just wanted to share it so people could see. Now I want to make it bigger so you can see it better. Oh boy. Cool. There we go. So we are quickly approaching January 5th, where there'll be an oath of office to start that meeting. What I've proposed here is to finish the meeting on the evening of the 5th with some retreat items that talk about the bulleted items here, discussion of the chair responsibilities of potential candidates, also including the process for choosing, which I had a member ask about today. So in that process, we would ask people to either nominate someone or volunteer that they would like to be considered, a round of why you would like to be considered, or a member would like to be considered, and then putting that to a vote after some opportunity to speak to that. And then the rest of it is more about refreshers, things that we do every time we have some new members, but refreshers on communications amongst the committee, annual review of school committee roles and responsibilities with subcommittees, including the required subcommittees. Take a look at and edit procedural rules, which should be adopted pretty quickly. And we have that book that we've used in the past. We've brought that back. We have some more copies for those who don't have theirs. And then I have on here other items that members may wish to discuss, and you could share them now or pitch them to me later. But we want to put together a retreat. And so with that, we pitched the 5th following the oath and any needed school business, like a field trip or anything like that. We'll try to get that done. But then also Wednesday, the 7th, and then the following Monday, the 12th, if needed, to continue to get that done. I think from a place of reflection, last year, we did similar things, but it felt like it spilled too far into February. And so I'm trying to make an effort to improve upon that process. But ultimately, it's the work that you all do, and we'll try to help facilitate it the best we can. Thoughts?
Member Bowden, I didn't know if he was going to call on you.
I wasn't sure if he was either. So I just wanted to kind of propose that we not have any chair discussions until we have a full board or a full committee, because we're going to have the vacancy in Ward 5, and I don't know when that is going to be filled. And I feel like that's something that, whoever is taking over for Ward 5 should have a say in. So I don't know what that means as far as our meetings go before somebody is appointed to Ward 5, whether it's just, we kind of assume what we do now when the chair is absent, which is we just sort of take a quick vote before a meeting and somebody fills in as chair. But I do think it's important that we wait for a full committee as well as the city council rep, whoever that's going to be.
Have you reviewed this with Kathy at all? Because normally the chair has to be chosen before inauguration so that the chair can speak at inauguration.
So because of the staggered elections now, there's no inauguration, the ceremonial piece. It's really just getting the oath. And so we would be able to work through that. Karen's whispering here too, but I believe it does say in policy that you should be choosing your chair the first meeting of the year, which would be the 5th. in
We won't have a
essence, but
full committee yet, though.
I know.
So what we're going to end up with more than likely is what always happens, which is a split vote, and then nothing's decided. So I just think it's important that we wait until we have a full committee. And if we all agree on that, can't we just, kind of wait and do the fill-in chair until we have a full committee?
I guess I'd want to hear from others, but we'd have to look at a change in policy if we're doing that. The only way I could see would be a full committee vote. That would maybe have someone be the chair until such a time. This is slippery because it's a public meeting and it has to have a chair or a chair pro tem.
Historically, the incoming members meet with the members that are continuing in like an unofficial capacity and sort of have like a straw poll of who will be chair. And then at the first meeting, it's prepared to vote, but then everybody can be involved. It wouldn't be a split vote if just the Ward 5 seat is empty. It could be a tie vote though, which would also make it fail, but there would be an even number of people, so it wouldn't be a split. I mean, it could still be a
Well,
split, but it wouldn't be.
Well, it could be, but how do we know who city council is going to put? So what if?
Have they not, has the city council already decided who?
We're having an organizational meeting at 5 p.m. tomorrow before the city council meeting, and that's typically where the school committee member and the city council president are unofficially decided on.
Right.
And then on January 5th is when they'd be actually voted in. Another piece that I'm sorry, I'm just realizing now, but city council's having their first meeting on January 5th as well. So the city council representative won't be able to be in both meetings.
And that's because in the charter, it's essentially right after the holiday. That's why the was always on the 2nd, because it's like the first available date after the new year, once the term begins.
But you could, if you guys decide tomorrow night who the new city council rep to the school committee will be, then that person could attend something like later this week or early next week with the school committee and do the same thing in that unofficial capacity to determine chair. You would just be missing the Ward 5 rep, which probably isn't going to be until later in January anyways, because it has to go through the application process and then the mayor's appointment and the city council voting. So it would be quite a while if you wait for the Ward 5 seat to be filled.
I mean, our charter says at the beginning or as close to as possible, right?
Yeah.
So it does not need to be the very first meeting. And I think whoever ends up in Ward 5, what if they want to be chair? What if we have somebody that we all agree on in Ward 5 as chair? I just feel like we really need to wait for a full committee.
There's also the possibility that Ward 5 doesn't need to be filled because it's less than 12 months remaining on the term. So by that, it doesn't necessarily have to be a filled seat.
Definitely some factors. The first line of policy BDB is the chairperson shall be elected by school committee members in its first meeting in January each year. So I don't know what other members want to do. Just trying to follow policy.
Member Eames, I have a random thought. We could vote on a temporary chair until we have a full committee and then vote for the real chair. So then we're following the letter of the law or the rule. The other is we alter the procedural rules, early on in the term. to accommodate this strange situation that we're in. But we need someone to be there at the front of the table from the beginning of the year. Whether it's the same person all the way through the year might be something we could negotiate.
Counselor Harriman?
Thank you. I was going to suggest something similar. I know I most likely won't be here, but you could elect a chair at the first meeting, and if everyone agrees, elect a chair at the first meeting, and then agree to revisit it once that seat is filled, and just have another election. Just a possibility.
Member McLaughlin?
I think that makes sense. I mean, could we also just find out from the mayor and or clerk about how long that appointment process could take or will take? 'Cause that could affect the timeline too. If it's that first week, then we don't need to worry about it. But if it's going to be a month, then that could change the dynamic.
What do our meetings in January look like? We should have what, 2, right? Obviously January 5th, but then when is the next meeting? The 12th?
12th.
So
And that's it. Yes, and then it's February 2nd. So it's early February is the 3rd.
early February.
7th.
Joint meeting. Oh, that's the joint meeting with City Council, January 27th.
Yes, that's the joint meeting.
So I guess I'm okay with the temporary thing, but I feel like we already have it in our procedural rules that if the chair is not available, then we don't have a vice chair. We just quickly vote who's going to fill in as role of chair. And I guess I don't see the problem with doing that until we have a full committee to make a legitimate vote.
A chair being unavailable is different from not having a chair at all. I think you need somebody that has that's in that role. And then if that person is unavailable, then it would default to the pro tem.
I don't have big personal feelings, just that there's a policy that says the first meeting, we should elect a chair. But I also know there's been years that hasn't happened quite like that. I think it's really like, to an extent, it's the will of the committee that you can do certain things, but you could also do some kind of motion where you're either going to adjust policy or choose a different path. I wouldn't advise you to operate against your own policy.
Member Eames?
We've always had it in policy, though, that it could be revisited. So it seems like that's what we should do. We should agree that we're going to revisit it, not dispute that, agree that we're going to revisit it once the seat is filled. And in the meantime, work with someone. It's kind of the equivalent of a pro tem, but actually it's official for the first couple of meetings. That would be my thought.
Member Hurd?
Thank you. Yeah, I agree. I think probably one of the things we need to change in policy that probably policy didn't even think of was with the staggering terms, how that was going to affect the rest of the stuff that was going on, with city and school having the same meetings and there not being like an official inauguration anymore. So not to add more onto policy's plate, but maybe that's something that we have them revisit or look at. And like I said, I'm also fine with voting in an interim or a temporary chair until we can get a full committee, because I agree. I think city council deserves, that's the whole reason they have a seat on our committee, is to have a say, and our Ward 5 constituents also need representation. So I'm fine with voting for like an interim or a temporary.
Member Gallant?
Could I make a motion at this time to have a temp? I would like to make a motion to ask Member Bowden to be temporary at this point.
No,
Just
make a motion to.
Right now, it would just be a motion to move forward with.
Oh,
adding a
okay.
temporary.
Gotcha.
And then it would be decided amongst the committee and whoever's available now, who that would be.
Okay.
So that would be a separate process.
Gotcha.
So are you making a motion to move forward with the process to elect a temporary chair?
Correct.
Okay. Is there a second? Seconded by Member Eames. Any further discussion? All in favor? Oh, Is that what you were gonna say?
No, I do have a question. So what is this motion doing exactly? It's to have a separate meeting between now and January 5th to choose a chair?
I think you would look at who would be the chair on the 5th as part of that retreat.
Which I don't think we need to have a motion and a vote on that, do we?
I think what Member Glant's goal is here is to decide as a group that you're going to go with a pro temp instead of a chair initially,
Before we get a full board.
while you wait for a full board.
Yeah.
Is that something that the new members coming in
Yeah.
now who we have should be a part of though, not?
That's why I thought the 5th, because then people are sworn in and they're, all your members that are available are available.
And I do also think we need to go to public comment before we vote on anything.
I just might suggest that. Well, that's what I was going to say. I might just suggest we just agree we're going to do that, but I don't think we need like a formal. We're not making a formal policy change or formal anything change. It's more just those of us who are going to be here on the 5th, I think we agree that's a good idea to do it that way. Is that all right? That's at least my opinion, I should say. Yeah.
So what?
So off mic, member Eames withdrew her second.
Yes, I withdrew my second because now I think indeed we don't need a motion today. We'll do it on the 5th.
As long as everyone's on the same page, yeah.
So just wanted you to.
Yes.
Then I withdraw my motion as well for the same reason.
Okay. Yes.
So this is a question. I had some unrelated to chair. I had some comments on the other part of the meeting, but do we want to get into that now, or do you want to take some public comment now, or do you have thoughts, Jake?
I just, around the chair piece, something that might want to be considered on the 5th would be to waive a second read and change the policy.
Procedural rules.
So then we're not the procedural rules, the actual policy that says you will elect a chair the first meeting. I don't know if we add a sentence to it or what have you. The other concern I have is there an endpoint in this? If there's no Ward 5 appointment, if there's other things that pop up that might limit things that we don't even know about. I'm not saying because I know something, I'm saying a lot has gone on. So I'm just curious, like, at what point does the membership get to a place of you need a chair? And
Are you saying if there isn't a meeting on the 5th or?
no,
there's
I'm
necessary-
saying, I think the right way to do this would be to change the policy with public input, even if you waive a second reading, so that on the 5th, you have a policy that reads what you're doing. And then I would be suggestive of some kind of time frame around that, so that we're not looking up in March and it's undecided who the chair is and all that kind of stuff.
Further discussion on that? Member Heard.
Thank you. I think that's fine, changing the policy. I do vaguely remember, and I reached out to you about this last year when legal was here, they talked about you being the person that runs that whole chair thing. I know you don't like it and it's icky, but like that was, and so I would like, if we are going to change the policy and edit it, if that is not currently in the policy, I would like it to be added to the policy because I'm remembering correctly, right?
No, the attorney can be. Jake is the secretary.
But I thought the attorney suggested because of all the crazy thing that happened last year with like not enough people being whatever, the attorney, again, maybe I'm remembering incorrectly, but the attorney did state that like in that instance, you would technically be the one that would run that like agenda item or that portion of the meeting.
I'm comfortable facilitating the conversation, but the motions and votes all would have to come from the committee itself. Yeah, but I do recall that we talked about how do we facilitate this, and I don't know if it was last year or the year before, but I do recall there's some question about that facilitation. Thanks.
Counselor Harriman.
I mean, it's just a suggestion, but I wonder if the policy even needs to be changed. I don't think the policy says that you cannot have another vote for chair at any point. So if you just vote on January 5th for your chair, that person will be the official chairperson. And then if the committee agrees, once the Ward 5 seat is filled, you can just have another vote for chair.
There is language in there somewhere that says it can be brought back up at any time.
Mhm.
Yes. Member Eames.
Karen, can we have a policy meeting between now and January 5th? Is that legal? LEA, is that legal? I mean, I don't know what the timeframes are for work, but I mean, you and I can consult, but that's different than the committee. Right. What do you think, Karen? Should I ask you this privately?
So I'm just pulling up the sample policies that we use and looking to see if the language in our policy was different than the recommended policy. So the must have been at some point based on the charter, the addition of the policy in January, because the sample policy for Maine School Management does not have the timeline in terms of when a chair. And I would say, if I had to guess, that's because lots of boards and committees members are voted in at different times. So it wouldn't be standard language in a policy. So could that one change be brought to those of us who need to look at it and provide feedback before then? Yes. I don't know if an actual meeting is possible, but we could try.
We could consult at least.
Any further, Member Heard?
Do we want to go to public comment?
That's what I was going to next if there was no further comment. So, are there any members of the public that would like to speak on this item?
My name's Lisa Jones. I live in Ward 2. I'm here, well, I have to address the chair, but my message is to the rest of you who are going to still be on the committee after tonight's meeting. When it comes to choosing your next chair, I would like for you to please choose somebody who is capable of following the rules equitably, no matter who is speaking at the podium. And I would like you to choose somebody who responds to constituent emails and emails from the rest of the committee. Because the chair, your current chair ignores my emails and reportedly ignores the emails from my representative, I have zero representation on that committee. As a side note, there's no reason for the Ward 5 spot to not been posted yet. Thanks.
For the record, I don't ignore emails. I have certain members of the public blocked under legal representation because they have harassed me for many, many, many years. Any further discussion?
For the record, I have not.
Please,
I have not.
Off. Turn the mic off, please.
Not.
Yeah, I'd like to move on to some other items around the agenda for the retreat.
Thank you.
So there are three things I already kind of had in mind that I think we could use to discuss. It's just generally helpful, I think, for the committee. One would be, I think, FOA generally, just freedom of access, and how that works for committee communications, including email, actually. That was one item. And number two is just executive session. I think, meaning talking about how that works and the parameters around it. Of course, this would be a public meeting, but I think, especially as a new committee member, that it's just a brand new set of concepts, I think. And then actually the third, I think, just the parameters around public comment. I think, what actually is appropriate or not even appropriate, but just, the legal parameters that we should be following with public comment. I think that, I think that's just important for us all to know and for everyone to know. So those were three I had on my list already.
Anyone else with things that you would like covered at the retreat? Member Heard?
Thank you. I don't know if this is necessarily a retreat item, but made me think during public comment today. I know we're not supposed to respond back, but I don't know if there has ever been or if there could be a portion like after public comment for us to discuss about something at public comment, because like the recess thing, I guess I was planning on either talking about it or bringing it up, which I guess I would bring that up under future agenda items, but I don't know if those types of things sometimes they might not necessarily need an agenda item. And I don't know how that works. Like, I don't know, just thinking out loud.
Yeah. Also, just thinking as you said that, I know how tempting that is almost all the time. But I also know that because it's not an agenda item, the rest of the public hasn't had an opportunity to know that's going to be discussed and then weigh in. And so typically that's why we do future agenda items, so that people do have a notice that we're going to talk about a topic like that. That's why can feel slow sometimes, but
Although I won't be there, I would think it would be a good idea at the retreat. We've done this in the past in years when it was necessary to have an attorney present to remind all of the continuing and incoming committee members, things like things that are discussed in executive session. It's not allowed, you're not allowed to share that outside. I know that's been an ongoing issue. And so having attorneys there to make that very clear moving forward would be a good idea. Member Gallant?
Yes, I think some kind of primer on budget season. New people are going to be coming in, and I remember when I first came in and budget season happened. You know, I was in deep water. And it takes a couple of years. So maybe some kind of primer about budget season, you know, what it is, you know, numbers and, you know, what we're looking at. I think that would be very helpful so that people don't feel so lost.
Anything else to add to his list? Did you have more to add on?
no, I think those are good, and we can always do things as we go. So, for example, around budget, we could pause and explain subsidy, and there's a lot of jargon in education, so I think it's worth tapping the brakes whenever a member feels like it's helpful to make sure that we're all on the same page is usually good.
Okay. Member Eames?
I might add just one thing based on Matt Agron's request and the efforts last year to get our goals in line and get a long-term plan. So I think we should, during the retreat, discuss the process for moving that along, especially with the new members, so they understand the importance of that.
All right, agenda item number 7, to review and potentially vote on the first read of the policies listed A through C. Do you have anything, Karen, or? Okay.
So I'll just speak to the IMDA patriotic exercise and IMDb flag displays at the last the meeting when these were brought forth. Some members asked for some further discussion at the policy committee level. That discussion did happen, and I think committee members of that subcommittee would be happy to share that. Student dress, which is JICA, is just a review of that policy, which is the same as the patriotic exercise and flag display. So no big changes, but I did want to share publicly that the student dress policy, we did receive feedback from both middle school students and high school students, and took that into consideration as we reviewed the policy. There was some discussion about making sure that students and staff were on the same page about the policy, but not they didn't feel like there was a need to change the policy, but just having more conversation within the schools, which I thought was good. And then the I know we haven't got there yet, but I'll just keep going. Number 8 is a deletion. And because we voted in at one of our last meetings, a more comprehensive policy around reporting of student progress and assessment, this policy IKAB is no longer needed. It's redundant. So I know that's a separate item, but I just wanted to give all my updates together.
Thank you. Member Bowden?
So in regard to the flag policy, which I don't have that in front of me.
IMDb?
Yeah, IMDb. So Superintendent Langlois had emailed us earlier with some examples of other districts that took different steps with their flag policy. And the one that stuck out to me was RSU 63's amendment, where they added a sentence to the end of their policy that said, no other flags will be on display or remain on display unless it is pertinent to the current lesson or used for illustration. And I'd like to see that added onto our policy as well.
Member Hurd?
Thank you. So I agree with Member Bowden. I would also like to see that added to IMDb. I also had a question about IMDA. In this policy, it talks about curriculum that's provided in our district around the flag. I'm gonna quote for a minute here. The policy, it talks about the significance of the flag to teach them as in the students, the cost, the object, and principles of our government, the insurmountable sacrifices made by the founders of our nation, the important contribution made by all who have served in the armed services of our country since its inception, and to teach them to love, honor, and respect the flag of our country that costs so much and is so dear to every true American citizen. So my question is, what is the what is there a curriculum? What does that curriculum look like? Is that curriculum, I mean, obviously it's different across elementary, middle, and high school. High school age, is that solely curriculum just in history? In elementary school where students don't really have a history class, like how is that implemented? Just looking for more information about how this is talked about in our districts and how our students are taught all of these things that are in our policy.
So there, like many other topics, there isn't a specific curriculum that's a one-size-fits-all curriculum for this particular topic. These items are in our social studies standards, and so at the high school, they're taught across history, world history, U.S. history, government, wherever the standards might fall. At the elementary level, it's within the social studies, and that's at the primary level. It's intended to be intertwined with our literacy curriculum and with teachers reading picture books and those sorts of things. At the upper level, it takes a little bit of a different twist with those standards, more about the structure of our country and states and how that all comes together. So there isn't one curriculum. I would go on record to say we know we can do better with science and social studies. We don't have time is our big constraint at the elementary level. And I don't think we're alone in that, but it is we are responsible for those standards from the state of Maine.
So I think that's great, but I would like to see more of a curriculum put in place. I actually reached out to a couple different staff in the elementary schools across our district, and none of them were even aware that this was a policy. They said they had never seen this policy before. So I don't know if that's them not reading their handbook or it's not something that we're really pushing. And I'm hoping that it can be something that we're pushing. Because I do think it's something very important. It's the history of our country. And I think that that's something that we need to be teaching everyone. And I agree that time is not our friend. But there are districts and schools that, unfortunately they're not public, so they don't have to follow those same rules and procedures out that are set there by the state, but I know that there's a history that takes place every single day and they find a way to fit it into their everyday curriculum. So I just am hoping that there's more conversation about how we can squeeze this in or, make it a priority going forward.
Member Bowden?
Yeah, I just have one more question on policy JICA, the student dress. It looks like all you did was add et cetera. Okay. Um, yeah, okay. Well, it just seems so broad to just say et cetera after words like racial and ethnic slurs. So was there more specific?
So members of the committee were looking at, members of the subcommittee were looking at adding specific detail, and it just became this laundry list. So it was a conversation around, do we take this out? Do we make this long list, or do we put something like et cetera? And so that was what they recommended.
Okay, so it just, here's my worry. So if someone finds something offensive, but like the student wearing it doesn't find it offensive, then what?
So the threshold
Yeah.
really ties back to disruptive to the learning environment. And so it's not about what one person thinks over the other. It's really about whether it's disruptive to the learning environment.
Okay.
It's like, yeah, I had mixed feelings. I think everybody did, but it was like enough of a point was made about what else should be here that people felt like there should be something else. So
Okay.
Member McLaughlin?
Can I ask about the first point? Unfortunately, I did receive superintendent's email while I was at work, so I didn't get a chance to read the different links and such. So I'm not sure if this is a question for the superintendent or maybe the other members, but I'm not sure what the goal of restricting flag displays would be. So I guess that's a question maybe more for the members.
Member Bowden?
Yeah, no, I'm happy to talk about that. So, I obviously have a high schooler and she sees a lot of things over at the high school and there are political flags. There are flags, I guess, celebrating sexuality and that sort of thing. And if it's not directly tied to a standard or any of our curriculum, I really don't see why that is in a school setting, a public school setting. Our teachers are great. And I think, if they're doing their job correctly, they're teaching our kids to think for themselves and make their own opinions on their political views and however else they want to think. I don't think it's something that a teacher should be pushing in their classroom. So for me, I'd like to see an American flag on display, flags from other countries that are represented in our schools. That's great. But I don't think there's room in our public schools for specific classrooms to be displaying political flags. It's not a politics class when you're not having a discussion or a standard on that particular subject, then it shouldn't be up on display in your classroom.
just a touch more context. So when this was paused last time, it was to review specifically these two flag and patriotic exercise policies. And the question was, should there be other language in that policy that restricts other displays? And so in the research that I did as part, what I shared back to all of you was there's a couple of different ways of doing this. One is what Member Bowden just mentioned. The other is to create a separate policy, which is I felt might be less legally challenging if the committee wanted to do that work. So that's part of what I shared in that email was some examples of other districts who have shifted some language, and also some language or link to an ACLU article that my really simplified deductive summary of it is you either do everything else or you don't touch it. And so that's really the question before you. And everything else could be everything from a pride flag to political candidate flags to Boston Red Sox flag to a musician to you name it. So if you're saying least the advice from the ACLU research I was able to pull up, and the other policies that I saw was essentially it's all or nothing. But if you are saying no other flags, you need to do your diligence as a district to go room to room and make sure everybody knows and take everything down. Because if you have some violation, then you could create a protected class situation where someone could say my freedom of expression is wrong, but the class next door is okay because they like the Red Sox or something to that effect.
Member Eames?
One of the other things we discussed at that meeting was that this is straight out of statute, that what we have here is statute. And adding a sentence would be our own sentence, not in statute. And it would be making more sense to create our own rule, policy, if we wanted to go different road than this. But this is the statute that we're quoting. Thanks.
Counselor Harriman?
Thank you. I think it could also get tricky to even to define what a flag is. Like if I have, if I have an image on a piece of fabric, like most people would consider that a flag, but if I have the same exact image on a piece of paper, is that still a flag or is that a poster? It's the same, it's the same exact message. So I don't know, it just could get really tricky to figure out the language around such a prohibition.
To avoid the possibility of opening the district up to some kind of risk of liability of legal response, I would caution against limiting any flags or, like the superintendent said, going all the way. And I would hate to see that. I know we've got the flags that line the cafeteria and that represents students in our district, and there's not a lot of opportunity left already for people to feel welcomed regardless of what their situation is, and to start picking away at that even more seems insulting to our students and sort of excluding our students unnecessarily. Member Bowden.
I mean, we're in the United States of America and we have an American flag for that reason that includes everybody and that represents everybody in the United States. So I'm going to stick to ideological flags displays. I don't think belong in our classrooms.
Member Hurd.
Thank you. So I agree. I think, there's, like Member Bowden said, there's one flag, and I guess I would kind of revert back to the comment about student dress and the et cetera. So it's et cetera because it depends on if it's a distraction from learning. And so you could say that all of these other flags or whatever are distracting from someone's learning. So I think we need to think about, and I don't care whether it's a separate policy or a word to a policy. I mean, I know Member Eames said that like it's statute, so we don't want to add anything to it, but we just talked about our procedural rules and like kind of what things were being on there. And there's not a one size fit all for every single policy, procedure, whatever. So it's kind of legally what is within our rights to do as a school committee, as long as, again, as long as we're not doing anything illegal, we can still change or add to policies. So I think, I don't know if this is we approve the first read. I don't know if it's a send back to the policy. I don't know. I don't know how that works. I don't know how we go forward. It seems like there's some questions, there's some back and forth.
I mean, good process, because this is a first read, would be to vote on the recommended edit. I'd also get public input before doing that, but.
Yes.
I'll just say, I guess I'm just not quite seeing what the cost of the current policy is. And I could imagine a cost of having to ban any other flag. I mean, we can't, based on this phrasing, no other flags will be on display or remain on display unless it is pertinent to the current lesson and used for illustration. Then we can't be having other countries' flags hung up all year. We can't have, someone couldn't put up, the other main flag, whatever that's called, the pine tree flag or anything like that. I mean, it would be nothing except for those two flags is how this is phrased. Unless you want to start picking and choosing, which my understanding is then that we don't do that. So I guess my feeling is just the sense of the costs and benefits here. I'm not personally and respectfully, I'm not seeing the benefits. So that's my opinion.
Any further discussion among the committee? We'll open up to public comment.
Good evening. My name is Jay Rich, and I'm a multilingual teacher at McMahon. I'm speaking tonight as a multilingual teacher. In my classroom, I hang flags from my students' home countries and a flag from my university, Boomer Sooner. I do this intentionally and as a part of my teaching practice. I also explicitly teach about the United States flag as a part of the curriculum. I teach about its history, its meaning, and civic values it represents. We also learn how to say the Pledge of Allegiance and make sure that we're saying all of the words appropriately. The presence of other flags does not diminish the instruction. It strengthens it by allowing students to understand the U.S. flag in a global context and to see themselves reflected in learning. I also want to raise a practical concern. Policies like this would require our administration to interpret, monitor, and enforce classroom displays. That shifts their role from keeping our schools safe, supporting staff, and ensuring buildings run smoothly, and towards policing instructional choices. I don't think that this is the best use of administrators' times or expertise, and it puts them in an unnecessary position of endorsing or denying individual classroom decisions rather than focusing on student safety and school operations. Honoring the U.S. flag should not require restricting effective teaching practices or diverting administration attention from the core work of running safe schools. I urge the committee to trust our educators, avoid policies that create unintended burdens while doing real harm to our students' sense of belonging. Thank you.
Matthew Egren, Ward 4. So, without any rules of what flags can and can't be displayed in our school, under this logic, the following flags can be displayed: the Gadsden flag, the Deus Vult or God's Will's flag, the Celtics Cross flag, the Al Qaeda flag, ISIS flag, Hezbollah's flag, the Nazi flag. There's no policy that says you can't fly another flag. That's part of your issue. You also have political flags. Each side has their own opinions on what flags are appropriate. You're going to offend somebody in any classroom, depending on which way you go on that. So, a policy that says you only have the American flag and the state of Maine flag, and any other flag that's appropriate for the lesson, at least until you get a formal policy that says this is what we will allow. Then, I have a question for JIKA. Would a student wearing either of these be in trouble wearing them into the building? I'll pass these down. I only have one copy of my printer. There's a lot of ink in that. The first is the national emblem of Timor-Leste or East Timor, which features an AK and a spear, both as symbols of their independence. The second is the flag of Mozambique, which, according to its constitution, the hoe represents production, the rifle, which happens to be an AK, represents defense, and the book behind it represents education. Why are the AKs on these two flags? Because, to be honest, they honor their long struggle for independence with the rifle that helped them win it. There was also the Guatemala flag and the flag of the Bolivia, which are both loaded down with much older weapons displays, but they're weapons displays. Are they something that a student would get in trouble wearing into class? I ask because under the policy, they're flags and emblems. They're not wearing a AR-15 across my chest or wearing a Glock. Also, would the POW MIA that's on my shirt be offensive? Without a formal policy, they're all either allowed or not. Without a formal policy, there's nothing that's banned, which means people will be wearing anything. So Leclerc, 210 Blake Street, we have two flags that represent every single one of our students, the American flag and the Maine flag. Everything else, I believe, becomes a distraction.
Would any other members of the public like to speak on this?
Krista St. Cyr. I'm a multilingual instructional coach at the middle school, also LEA president. And I wanted to also speak to the additional line in the policy, removing flags representing symbols of acceptance and nationalities of our students and the impact that that would have on our students. Seeing their identity reflected in their school environment sends one message that they belong here. These symbols are not political statements. They're affirmations of safety, dignity, and inclusion. When students feel unseen or unwelcome, it directly affects their sense of safety, engagement, and ability to learn. I encourage the committee to carefully consider how this change could affect students' sense of belonging and whether it aligns with the commitment to support all students.
Thank you. Any other members of the public like to speak on this topic? Back to the committee.
So there's a motion and a second to add no other flags, excuse me, be displayed or remain displayed unless it is pertinent to the curriculum, pertinent to the current lesson for illustration.
Any further discussion on that? All in favor? And opposed? You get it? 4, 5. Iman.
Okay. So you're opposed. Can we just do that count again real quick?
All in favor? And opposed? Yes.
So I'd like to make a motion to approve policies listed A through C for the first reading.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
And any further discussion? All in favor? And opposed? Good? Okay. Agenda item number 8 is to review and potentially vote on the deletion of the following policy that Karen has already spoken about, IKAB. Any discussion? Huh?
The other, did we vote on the other two that was included?
The motion was A through C.
A through C.
Oh,
Yes.
sorry, I missed it. I apologize.
That's okay. Is there any discussion on, sorry, member Hurd?
I'd like to approve the deletion of the policy listed D.
Unless your agenda is different from mine.
It says D.
Oh, mine says A.
Yeah, mine says A.
Oh, yep.
So
Okay, I would like to,
IKAB.
to,
IKAB.
yes, that.
Any further discussion? All in favor? It's unanimous. Agenda item number 9 is report from the school committee chair. I just have a brief statement. Tonight marks my final meeting after 10 years of serving on the Lewiston School Committee. I want to thank the community, my fellow committee members, Jake and Karen, and our incredible staff at our schools and at Dingley, and most of all, our students for trusting me with this responsibility. It has been an honor to serve the city where I grew up and the schools that I chose for my own children to attend. I also feel compelled to acknowledge something that many of us know but rarely say out loud. Public service today comes with a level of harassment and hostility that makes it incredibly difficult for good people, especially parents who simply want to help, to step forward. I came to sit in this seat as an LHS graduate and a mom who wanted better for my own children and all of our students. I was the most politically clueless person around, and sometimes I wish I could have stayed that way. I hope that moving forward, we can create a climate that encourages more family and community-focused people to serve. But I worry that the current political motivation of some does nothing but stall progress, create distractions from the good work that needs to be done, and often scares away the very people we want to serve in these roles. We don't need grandstanding and divisive politics running our schools. We need people who are truly invested in our future and want better for our students. Thank you again, Lewiston, for the privilege of representing the community that I love. It has definitely been an experience, and I appreciate everyone who has shown support in various ways over the years. And I would also like to thank Officer Monteith and Mary Murphy at the Y, who helped out last week with the threats that I was receiving and addressed those in a very appropriate manner. Thank you. Agenda item number 10 is a report from the superintendent.
So just a few things. First one is today we met to talk about 287 Main Street. We talked about concepts and ideas that have been shared so far. We are meeting again on the 21st of December, of January, to review some things, because between now and then they're going to go see the space again, and look at the prints and all of the engineering components. And then tentatively on the 5th of February, we'll have them facilitate a public input item. And so those wheels are turning. Just want to let you know. Also, I have a plaque for each of the current members who are stepping away for one reason or another. Just want to publicly thank you for your service. And while things have been challenging, especially as of late, I do think that there are good intentions and people are coming here to do their very best for our kids. So I have a plaque here for Craig Charpentier, who has served on the school committee for how many years now? It's 2 years. Iman, who's been here for around a year, and also Megan, who has served on the school committee for as long as I can remember. You said 10 years in your?
Yeah.
And prior to you being on the school committee, I think I knew you as a parent. So thank you for your efforts and work for kids. So just have a plaque for you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
That was all I had for updates. I know I shared with you all that I had a busy week last week, but things seem to be settling, both in the personal and professional world. So
Thank you again. Agenda item number 11 is a report from our city council rep.
Thank you. As I mentioned earlier, City Council's meeting tomorrow at 5 p.m. We have the organizational meeting of the incoming city councilors, and we'll be discussing who's going to take which committee assignments, who's going to be council president, and who's going to be the representative to the school committee. We also have a regular meeting at 7 and a couple items that people might be interested in. I've seen a lot of discussion about the proposed data center for Bates Mill number 3. And there's also an update from Lewiston Housing Authority on their various projects that they have in under development. It was supposed to happen at our last meeting, but we had a snowstorm and the representative wasn't able to come. So I know a lot of people have been interested in some of their upcoming projects. So that's going to be on the agenda too.
Member McLaughlin.
I do have a question / request for you as our council rep, and it does pertain to, there's two TIF related agenda, tax increment financing related agenda items. And I just wanted to note, as a school committee member, and I think as a school committee, or at least just for me personally, it can be a little hard to get a read on how the school budget may have future revenue growth when it seems like it's great to see there is an increasing, hopefully, amount of development in the city, but the school department by law gets no revenue from that if either, well, one, if it's not taxable because it's nonprofit, or if it goes into a TIF and the value is sheltered. And I do feel like the incentives are a little misaligned in that we're the ones whose budget goes to a public vote. And yet we don't have a say in how revenues might be diverted from the school budget. So, that's the city council's business. So I don't question that, but I just want to express, I hope that you and the other councilors are keeping a close eye on the full budget picture for the whole of Lewiston, including the school budget, and how, and it's not that, TIFs shouldn't be used at all or anything, but it's just, that there is going to be some revenue growth that helps us out over here on the school side. So I just want to mention that.
Understood. Thank you.
Were you done with everything, Scott?
Yes, I'll set.
Member Eames has a question for
I
you.
just wanted to ask if the 5 p.m. part of the meeting is open or secret?
Secret.
It is open because the majority of the members, the incoming members of the new council, are currently seated council members. So based on open meeting laws, it does have to be open. It will be in the conference room that's behind city council chambers. So there is some limited seating around the sides if people do choose to attend. But there's no public input part of that meeting.
Thank you. Agenda item number 12 is updates from subcommittees. Member Bowden?
Yep, the negotiations is still ongoing with our tech group, and it sounds like we are kind of close. I would assume that hopefully by the end of the year we will have a agreement in place. That's all I have.
Thank you. Any other subcommittees? No.
I think finance met between the two meetings, but the last meeting wasn't that long ago, so finance subcommittee did meet and.
That was the night of our last
It's
meeting.
the night of our last meeting,
Yep.
okay. So I'm not gonna repeat that then. Same update as last week.
Okay. No other subcommittees have met?
We met, but we just voted on what.
Right.
met
Okay.
about.
Thank you. Agenda item number 13 is community announcements. Agenda item 14 is future agenda items. Member McLaughlin?
Well, I think Sean's point about recess, I think it would at least be good to get an update on current recess policy and if there's any changes worth considering.
Thank you. Member Bowden?
No, I was going to bring up the same thing, and I think I've brought this up in the 5 years I've been on this committee numerous times, that we need to offer more recess to our students, especially our youngins. They can only concentrate for so long. Like we cannot expect them to go through an entire school day in kindergarten and have just a 20-30 minute recess once. Like it's just asking too much. So I appreciate that young man that came to speak to us, and I hope we can actually take this seriously and take a look at it this time.
I also think that we would have a lot fewer behavioral issues at the middle school if they got some kind of a recess throughout the day. That's a lot going from 6th grade where you have some level of recess to nothing for 7th and 8th grade in that cramped school with so many personalities. Member Hurd?
Thank you. So yes, I agree. Also, isn't it against the law to take recess away as a punishment? I'm pretty sure. So I just also want to throw that out there for anyone who's listening.
So it is, except for restorative efforts.
Yeah, but that's a slippery slope. Go outside and have your restorative efforts. Anyways. And I would also urge our district to look at other schools and how they implement more recess, or not even just recess, but like, time that the students aren't required to sit there in their seat or their desk at all times. Again, my 2 children have started a private school this year. And even the high school kids get to go outside for recess. And my son is one who had a very hard time sitting in a classroom at his desk on a mat at circle time. And because he's just a boy. He's a 10-year-old boy who has a lot of energy. And so being able to get outside more and have class time outside and do those types of things has done wonders for him. And the reduction in actual quote unquote learning or classroom time hasn't actually affected him at all. If anything, both of my children are above and beyond, way farther along than what they were at the beginning of the year. They have learned a ton and grown a ton in their quote unquote learning time is actually less than what they get in public school. So I would really urge us to look at what other schools and stuff are doing. Second thing is there was a article in the Sun Journal that came out about our climb program and how parents are not allowed to send their children to their school of their choice and all of those things. And so I know Kirsten has been in here and we have kind of had some updates from her, but we haven't really kind of had updates in a little while. So I'm wondering if maybe she would be available to come in and kind of give us an update on like what's going on over there. How's that going? What's that looking like? That's kind of we're over a year now, right? Yes. The fall was a year. Yes.
We're in our second year of.
Yeah. Okay. So like second year. So like, what does that look like for our district? We were projecting cost savings, kind of where are we at there, especially where we're coming into budget season soon. So if we could just get an update, that'd be great.
Yeah, and I would be careful with being reactive to articles that had many inaccuracies in them, but yeah, I hear what you're saying.
Yes, I agree. But it just jogged my memory. Like we haven't really had an update from her really. And with our new members coming in, like maybe they don't know about our climb program and what that looks like. So that might be a good opportunity for her to just give them a, bullet point presentation. I don't know.
Member Bowden?
Yeah, so the other public comment tonight that I think we should probably discuss was the LEA complaint about not being dismissed for inclement weather. I know contractually they are obligated to do these PDs, but can we talk as a committee? I don't know if it would need to open a contract up or if this is something that we can discuss as far as weather goes, like at what point do you send teachers home? If students have already been sent home and buildings have already been shut down, like what is our responsibility here as a school committee to help them feel safe?
I mean, I'm open to any conversations. The weather ones are always a hard call. That's my call. And that was the call I made that afternoon. Some of the other programs, they function differently. They actually meet at night in the evenings. So there was some question about the later this goes, the worse it will get. So that's my short answer. It's winter in Maine. We want people to get home safe. Last Wednesday afternoon, there was some weather. There was a line of mix. If you got to Lisbon, it was raining. If you got to the foothills, it's always challenging in the foothills. And I know people go home in every direction. So it's, if the committee wants to take on that call, I'll happily call you, but we have some things too that are, it's really challenging for staff as well if we reschedule those. So there's a lot of factors, but really I look at just like I do for the kids, the adults. So I felt like it was, if people were careful, they would get home okay.
Sorry, just one more question on that. Is it possible to do professional development if you sent everyone home, if they jumped on a Zoom or something, is it possible to do it that way or does it have to be in person?
So
With inclement weather.
So during inclement weather, when we did things from home in the past, everyone requested a device, Wi-Fi, compensation for their Wi-Fi. Not everyone, but many, many people. So I wouldn't consider that feasible.
Member Hurd?
Thank you. So was Wednesday early release? Like what was Wednesday? Sorry, kids weren't in school. That was a professional development day. Like what was Wednesday?
So we had our PLC that happens multiple Wednesdays a month, which is our professional learning communities, after school professional development. Is there some early release that particular day? I don't believe so. I think kids went home regular time
And so by contract, if those professional development hours are not met, they have to be rescheduled another time.
we try to get them rescheduled because a lot of the things that we do are either we believe necessary, have been planned well in advance, or mandated trainings, things of that nature. Can they be moved? Yes, that gets tricky because we have so many staff, but
So my question is like, is it required that they would have to make it up at another time? So my question is like, what's the lesser of two evils? You stay and everybody drives super slow, or you tack it on in June as an extra day at the end of the summer when everybody's ready to get out anyway?
yeah, so the professional development times, we would look to try to make that up, but it wouldn't be like a student day that we have to make up. So usually we work with the association on, lead time, when would we do it? There's always unhappy people when we reschedule because it changes their schedule. So yeah, it's really a no-win for someone like me. The snow, anything, whether it's kids, adults, you name it. Yeah.
If one of the teachers involved in the professional development made the decision for themselves that they needed to leave to drive home safely, what are there repercussions for that? Or like what happens from that?
They have contractual obligations, so
They would have to make it up individually?
I think it would vary. I'd have to know more about the situation. Okay. But we can't have people just pick and choose when they leave because we have professional development that's prepared and delivered, and we also have some things still connected to like our DOJ agreement. Those are mandatory, they're tracked, they're reported still. So there's those layers, but we don't go when it's dangerous because of that. I have to make a judgment call on what I see in the forecast, and that's what I did. And there's always those tough call days, and that was one of those ones. I was watching the sky, I was watching apps, I was watching pressure gradients, I was watching temperature gradients constantly. So it's a tough one.
Okay. Any other future agenda items? Nope. Agenda item number 15 is to enter into executive session to discuss a personal matter in accordance with 1 MRSA 4056A.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? School committee is in executive session at 7:10